Hi everyone, it's Michael from TIG Training, and today's small project is a cabochon cut cushion shape stone that is going to be surrounded by small round diamonds, roughly 1.45 millimeters. We're going to have a bail that's approximately 6.5. Now these measurements are given here are just approximate. We don't know exactly. We might have to move them around depending on how the spacing of the diamond goes. Basically the height of the pendant is going to be 4.5. These little rims we'll see should be around about 70 thick. There's going to be a double bezel holding the stone in. Like I said, the stone is 11 by 11.5, and because it's a cushion cut, the corner to corner measurement needs to be at least, we measured it and it's got to be 13 millimeters from corner to corner. Alright, so let's look at the other thing we need to know. These are parts we have to make. So to help me when I open up Artcam, it'll just keep me focused. So I know I'm going to have to make a bezel to hold my center stone. That's where we'll start. And then we'll do the stones. We array them around our stone. And then we'll do another edge that will give us the size of the final outside edge. Now we can make a bottom plate if you want to put your company logo on the back or something that closes off the back nicely. Then we're going to have rope that will go around that. Once again, our stone is 11 by 11.5. Corner to corner was 13 and our small diamonds were 1.45. So this is just a quick guide to help us along. Alright, so let's jump into Artcam. Alright, so this pendant we're going to make in Artcam Jewelsmith 2013. And the first thing we need to do is we're going to open up a new project. Okay, left click, and then what it does once it's opened, we're going to go to the model tab. You're going to left click on the models, and what that does is it brings up the models you can choose where you can start to make your relief that's going to make the pendant. Alright, so I'm doing this live, so we'll make a couple of mistakes, we'll learn, and let's see how we go. So we're going to go into a new blank, we're going to open it up, and the first thing you do is it gives you a name. Alright, so we're going to call this top pendant, so I know where we made that. And then the height of the model, 30 millimeters by 30 millimeters should be more than enough, and we could bump the resolution up to 50 pixels. Alright, so pressing this icon here will open up your model and we'll start to create our relief. So we're ready to start drawing. What I want you to look at is on the right hand side, make sure that this model has expanded. So to do that, you click on the plus sign. So put your mouse on the plus sign and left click, and that brings it up. So let's have a look at this. Hitting the plus sign on vectors opens up the layers. So your reference lines on this layer and your drawing default layer is the layer grayed out. We then have layers for front and back. Hitting the plus sign again, left clicking on the plus sign opens the front, and hitting the plus sign opens the back. Alright, so what we want is we want the layers to all have the same name. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to rename top pendant. Okay, and hitting enter, I'm going to rename this as well. So rename top of pendant, enter, and on the back layer rename top of pendant and enter as well. Alright, so these layers, this layer, this layer, and this layer all agree with each other, and it makes it a lot easier when you open it a few months from now to know exactly which layers were where. Alright, so on this layer, top of Pendant, we can start to draw our center stone. So on second thoughts, actually, no, we'll leave that as it is. So our stone is a cushion cut. So the fastest way to draw a cushion cut is to go to an ellipse tool and enter in the width is 11, the height is 11.5, and press in the create button or right click with your mouse or shut the tool down. So pressing F9 guarantees that the vector itself is centered in the model. Alright, so in order to draw a cushion cut, we need to know the corner to corner measurements of our stone, and since we measured that and they were 13 millimeters, we are going to go to the square tool. Okay, and you're going to open it up and you're going to select square, and we're going to enter 13, and that falls in both. Now the next time you use this box, my advice is just go back and set the rectangle radial button checked again, so that the next time you open it you have the choice of either drawing a square or a rectangle if you manually draw shapes. So it's still a square, 13 by 13. Let's make the angle a 45. Okay, and once again, if you right click with your mouse, it will create the square and it will shut down the menu. So F9, make sure that it's in the middle. Alright, so what we want to do now is this arc or this shape, we need to stretch it out so it touches this line here. So this icon here is your node editing icon, or pressing N on the keyboard. So you either select this icon or N on the keyboard, turns this vector into node editing. We know that it's node editing because it's black. Alright, so we want to grab this handle, and using the left arrow just slowly move it over, and then grab the bottom arrow and move it up so that that just touches that line right there where we are. Okay, we do not need the rest of the shape, so we're going to go and remove this spam, this spam, and this spam. And to do that, if you right click on the line, you can see remove spam as R. So to bring up this menu, you have to be, the mouse has to be on the line. Okay, right click and then you can see remove spam. Alright, so the shortcut is R. So N for node editing, I'm just going to hold down the R and go through that, that, and that. And last of all, escape takes you back out. I'm going to select the square we no longer need, and I'm going to go and delete the square as well. Alright, so we are about to start to mirror this section. So the mirror tool is this icon there. So we'll bring up the mirror, and with the object highlighted and these two boxes checked, one is when it mirrors it will give us a copy, and the second one it will actually join it. This is a new function of Artcam 2013. So we want to mirror to the right side, so selecting the right mirror, and then over the model option gives us the full square. And as you can see now, it is already a joined vector all the way around, which is great. Alright, the next thing to do is we're going to now create the two bezels that are going to hold the center stone. And the fastest way to do that is we are going to offset this outwards twice because it is a double rim holding our stone. So you're going to go to the offset tool, which is this icon here, or pressing O on the keyboard should bring it up as well. So with this object selected, press O, it brings up the offset. Alright, so we're going to read it. First of all, we want them to be a 0.5, so inside the offset distance we type 0.5, and then we go through your direction. It's going to be inwards, obviously. No, outwards. Sorry, it's going to be outwards. And it doesn't matter what option, I always leave mine on sharp. And we are going to offset once for the first room and once again for the second room. Alright, so let's look at this. So we're going to have our stones here. Okay, and our stones are going to go all the way around the outside of this second room. Okay, and our stones are 1.45. So if we draw a circle right here that measures 1.45, make sure the diameter is selected and not your radius. We enter 1.45 and right click, it makes the shape. So we want to leave a little bit of a space first of all here, so the stone is not crammed up against this edge. So in order to array these stones around the double bezel, we need a line that's going to run right through the center of our stones. So we need one more line that will allow us to array the stones along that line, and then we need one more line that will give us the framework where the pavé is, and then of course last of all we need the final outside edge of the pendant. So to get those all done right now, we're going to select this line and we can go back to the offset tool, which once again is this, or pressing O on the keyboard brings up the offset. So the stone is 1.45. So if you want to leave a little bit of a gap, you can go, now this is your choice, but I'm going to go 0.8, okay, in the distant box, and then make sure once again it's offset, and we're going to offset it once, which will give us our stones, and we want it once more again for the outside of the pavé area, and then last of all the next offset is the final frame that holds the pendant in place, and that will be 0.5. So go back to your distance right there, enter 0.5. It's still outwards, we're going to offset once more. Alright, so we can shut this down. So basically this is the drawing for the top of the pendant. Alright, so the stones are going to go all the way here. Alright, so I'm going to now go and array these stones along this line, and the option that we are going to use is paste along a curve, which is inside the filled section right over here, and this is the icon we're going to be using. Alright, so there is the circle, and this is the line they're going to be arrayed along. So we're going to select the circle first. Holding the shift key, we're going to select this line. We're going to bring up this tool. Okay, we're going to select this tool. And we don't know how many stones are going to go all the way around. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to pick a distance. So we're going to say, okay, we know the stones are 1.45. We're going to leave a little bit of a gap in between our stones so they don't touch, and we're going to make sure that make spacing even is checked, and then we're going to paste. And what we're going to do is we're going to look to see if the stones first of all are even, because if you mirroring, you can't have a half a stone and a half a stone. That's one reason. Another one is if they're not in line, you know that there is an odd number of stones here, and to count these stones quickly while the stones are highlighted, you right click, ungroup your vectors first, so ungroup your vectors, and then right click again with the vectors pink, go down to the properties section, and if you click on the properties right here, it tells you there are 33 vectors. So we can't have that, we need them to be even. So I'm going to go and delete those circles. So we're going to do the function once more. We're going to select the stone, shift select the line to paste the circles onto, and this time we're going to change it from distance and we're going to change it to a number. And we want to change the number to 32 stones because we had 33, and then we're going to paste 32 stones, and that evens everything out. Alright, so our stones we can put on their own layer over here. So to put these stones on their own layer here, I'm going to select the stones, I'm going to right click with my mouse, and I'm going to say move vectors to a new layer. Okay, so move vectors to a new layer, and a new layer appears there. I'm now going to right click and I'm going to rename this layer diamonds. Alright, so if I turn this layer off, you can see the diamonds will go away. So there are the diamonds on this layer. Alright, so the last thing to do with our drawing is to fit the prongs on here as well. So we're going to go back to the circle tool. Okay, we're going to select the circle tool and we're going to enter size, start to draw it there. We're going to enter size of roughly 0.45. 0.45 of a diameter will be a great size. Now once again, you can choose any size prong that you feel comfortable with, and we're going to create that prong. So what I want to do is I'm just going to look at the spacing. The positioning is not important right now. I'm just going to look at the spacing. I need a copy of this prong right now to be directly underneath it here, and to keep it in a straight line up and down, your Alt key, when I move it, will keep it in a straight line up and down. So to make a copy of this circle, I can hold down my Control key. So I'm going to hold down both Control and Alt, and then when I move it, it'll keep it in a dead straight line. So I'm holding Control and Alt on the keyboard. I'm just moving it straight down, and I'm going to position it right there. So I look at this gap, I'm looking at this gap, and I'm looking at this gap, and it appears to be sort of nice and even. So with that, I'm going to select both of these and I'm going to group them. So I'm just going to go right click and group, or this icon right over here is a group icon as well. Alright, so with them grouped now, I can paste these along this line. Alright, so when you paste the prongs along this line, you'll notice the first circle that we pasted started on the start point, which is the green node. This node needs to be moved to in between our stones, so that when we paste this prongs now, they will paste in between the stones and not on top of the stones. So to do that, you can zoom in anywhere where you find it easy enough to actually just insert a start point. So I'm going to just zoom into this area here, and hovering my mouse approximately over the center, I'm going to go to select the line, going to go to node editing, which is pressing N on the keyboard, and putting my mouse in between. I'm looking at this vector and this vector. I'm just finding roughly the center with my mouse, and I'm going to press P on the keyboard. So P will create a start point, or if I right click on that exact spot, it will also tell you that insert a node is P. Alright, so that is now our start point. So now when I paste these along this curve, bringing up the paste icon, and we're going to select exactly the same number of stones, so we're going to have the same number of prongs, and we're going to paste. Alright, so now we are ready to start to actually make our relief. So we're going to turn on the preview layer, which is this icon here. Okay, and I do understand that with the new version you can actually create the three-dimensional shape in the 3D view, okay, by turning on these vectors. Okay, it's your choice whether you want to stay here or whether you want to do it in the 2D view. If you are going to be doing it in the 3D view, make sure that you're looking straight down onto the top of the piece by pressing this icon there. Okay, bring it into view. And then if you want to turn off your zero plane, you can turn off the zero plane. Sometimes it helps you to see the vectors easy or not. So now we can start to create our shape. So the first thing we want to do is we want to give this some height for the outside frame. So I'm going to explain to you first what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a height for the outside frame. Then we're going to create a height for this frame, and we're going to create a height for this frame here. So when we finish, we're going to have a double frame here, and we're going to have an area here where the stones are going to sit. Alright, so on this layer here, which is the top of the pendant, okay, we're going to start to create, make sure this layer is grayed out. We're going to start to create this. So we're going to select this outside vector. We're going to hit F12, which will bring up the shape editor. We're going to make a full dome, 90 degrees, but we are going to limit the height radial, make sure that's checked, and we're going to limit the height to 0.5 in the height box. So you have 0 in the start height box, but you've got 0.5 in the height box right here, and then you're just going to add that up. Alright, so let's look at the top edge. You can see the first edge was made. Okay, go back to our view. Now we're going to select this line right there. That is the edge of our bezel, double bezel. We're going to enter exactly the same as we did on the first line. So it's going to be a full arc up to 90 degrees, which is all the way up, a full 90-degree arc. And once again, 0 in start height, but under limit to height, we're going to limit the height, select that radial, and then of course in the height box, we're going to put 0.5. And once again, when you've done that, you're going to press add. Sorry about the squeaky chair. I've tried everything to get it to stop squeaking, but it doesn't seem to be helping. Alright, so once again we're going to go back to this view, and you can see there is the beginning of the second frame. So we've got the last double border, if you want to call it, to hold our stone right there. And this will be selecting the same value. So selecting the inside, the second last line, we're going to once again do a full dome again. This time we're going to limit the height like we did previously, but we're going to make this height 0.65 because this needs a little bit of more height for you to set the stone, and you're going to add that in as well. Alright, so from this edge you can see we now have basically the basic frame done. We've just got to finish it off by cutting a seat inside here, okay, for our stone, and cutting a seat inside here for our stones to sit. Alright, so I've swapped over to the 2D view, okay, and I'm going to select that line there and that line there. So these two lines, okay, bring up the shape editor, F12, and I'm going to give it an angle of 55. So the angle, so I've selected the peak, okay, given it an angle of 55, and I'm also going to limit the height again. Okay, limit the height, and the height is the depth that I want it to go down. So this depth you can play around yourself. I'm going to make ours 0.4, and then so it's 0.4 in the height, and I'm going to subtract it down into this shape. And what it's done is it's created a bevel edge. So if you were to turn it over and turn our vectors off, you can see it's created this very slight bevel edge which resembles a bright cut if it's going to be set by hand, and it gives it a very nice frame. Alright, so the only other thing to do now is to select these circles. Okay, selecting our prongs or our beads, and we're going to go up, let's say 0.45. So full blown dome, which is an angle of 90, start height is 0.45, and this time we have to merge high. We cannot add, we want to merge high with this. And let's see if that has pushed them up high enough. Let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty good right where it is there. Alright, so we'll do a hard save quick. And hard save, as you know, is this icon here, or your Control S. Alright, so if you look at this pendant from a side view, you can see it doesn't have much thickness here actually. So I'm going to add a little bit of thickness on, but I'm going to do the thickness in the back plate. Okay, in the back relief. Because if I add the thickness on the front relief, I'm going to get those lines, pixel lines, and I'm trying to keep the model as smooth as I can. So, going to the back relief on the right hand side, right here on the right hand side, I'm going to the back relief. I'm selecting this layer right here. Okay, so with this layer now highlighted, I'm going to go back to my model. Okay, back to the 2D view. Actually, let me do this in the 3D view because you'll see right now. I'm selecting the outside frame, the very outside vector line. So let me turn this so you can see it. I'm selecting this outside line. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, from this view, you can see, I'm now going to bring this thickness down onto here. Alright, so let's make sure I've selected the outside line. Yes, I have. See the outside vector selected. I'm going to say, okay, give me a beveled edge. So anywhere between 45 and 50. A 45 will also be great. And I'm going to limit the height to, once again, we're going to limit the height, make sure the limit to height radial is still selected, a 0.5, and I'm going to subtract that down. Alright, so let's have a look from this view. You can see now I've thickened up the piece a bit. Alright, so last but not least, the only thing we have to do now is to cut the seats for our stone and to cut the seat for the center stone. Alright, let's do a quick hard save. And now we select our stones, our diamonds, and we are going to offset those. So we're going to press O on the keyboard for offset. We are going to go in 0.15. So it's 0.15 in this radial box. It's going to be inwards. Make sure you select this radial and then select the offset. So now they're all pink. So while they're all pink, if you right click immediately, you can group these vectors all at once. So now they are all purple. So let's go back to this view. You can see the stone vectors are all purple. So now with this, the inner vectors of the stone selected, I'm going to just use probably a 60-degree and subtract that down. And what this will do is it'll give me a nice seat inside here. So I just looked at this. I just made a mistake. I did that on the back relief because I wasn't paying attention. So I'm going to undo this move, and then I'm going to make sure we are working on the top side of the piece. Okay, so make sure you're on this layer. Make sure this selection is selected. This layer is selected. So make sure it's grayed out like I've done there now. And now let's do this again. So with this shape editor still selected, I'm going to subtract it down. And now you can see. So I need to open up these seats a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to offset those shapes 0.15 again. I'm going to do them once more, which gives me the inside of that seat. Now I'm going to right click and group those, and then I'm going to punch a hole right down through the piece. So with the last of the inner vectors selected now, with these, let's turn this off so you can see, with these vectors selected, which are all grouped, okay, with these now selected, I'm going to go down 1.5 and subtract. Alright, so let's have a look at that. Let's see what that did. And that is punched out. Let's turn these off. You can see that is punched out. It's given us a little seat for the stones to sit on, and it's punched out a nice hole all the way through the piece. Alright, we just got to cut the seat for our center stone, and we're going to be done. So let's turn our vectors back on again. I select the gem vector, which is the inside vector for our gems. Okay, and I'm going to bring up the shape editor, and I want to go straight down. Our stone is quite thick, so I'm going to go straight down 0.65, actually a bit more, being a cabochon, probably 1.75, and then I'm actually going to round it off because the bottom of the cab is rounded as well. Okay, so I'm then going to go down 0.75, but I want to limit the height of the, actually no, let me not do that yet. Let's just go straight down. Let's just go straight down 0.75 first. So no angle. We make sure it's flat. Let's go straight down 0.75, as you can see. So now we've gone straight down. And now I'm going to introduce this angle. So let's make this a 55 and subtract. Actually, I could have done it both at the same time. It was silly of me to do that in two separate moves when I could have done it in one move. Alright, so there we go. So our stone will sit nicely inside that shape there. And our top is done. So we're going to do a hard save. And we are going to add this relief we've just made now to our assembly. And you can see there isn't a plus sign right here yet next to assembly because we haven't added it. It's still a relief at the moment. So to add it from a relief and turn it into an STL and put it in the assembly folder, we are going to use the triangle mesh, this tool right here, and because we create a little bit of a thickness on the back relief, we'll make sure that when we close this, we're going to close it with a back relief, and then go ahead and press the create icon. Alright, so let's have a quick look at that. That looks pretty good. And top of pendant is now done. We're going to select add to project, and it's done. Let's do another hard save. Alright, since we are here anyway, we might as well add our stones, and we can add them to the library at the same time. So we can go and select, actually no, we'll do this right at the end. I'll bring it back into here and we'll add the gems in right at the end. Alright, so the top is now done, and now it's time to create the side view of our piece. Okay, so we're going to create the side view with the rope on. So let's go and do that. So let's look at what we need. Let's go and close this. What I need to do is I need to get a copy of this line, and the thickness of our first layer as it moves down is going to be, as we said earlier on, about 0.75, somewhere around there. So I'm going to offset this vector inwards 0.75 inwards. Okay, so that's going to be the thickness of our piece. Maybe we should go a bit more because we've got to put the rope on there as well. Let's think about this. Yeah, no, we need to go a little bit more than 0.75. That's not enough. So I'm going to take that and delete it. Let's take this line and let's make this 0.95 will be enough. And that's inwards. Alright, so I'm going to select both of those vectors. I'm going to copy them. And now I'm going to close. Oh no, before I do that, let's move these two vectors that I just made. I'm going to move them to a new layer. So we want to move vectors to a new layer, and right here there's a new layer. I'm just going to rename this, call this outside of our pendant. I'm going to isolate this by itself by right clicking on this light bulb. When you right click on any light bulb, it shuts all the others off. Alright, and why did that not give me both? Let's go back and look at that. So I need this one, move that one as well. So let's move that to the outside of the pendant. Alright, so now the outside of the pendant are these two lines. Alright, so what we want to do is, since we're going to be making the outside as a rotary file, okay, like a ring file, we need to look at how big the inner core of the rotary file would have to be. So if you go to the models and you look at what a rotary file asks you, it asks you when you open it up, it asks you, first thing it asks you is how big is the core that it's going to wrap the model around. So the first thing is the diameter, and what we need to know is what is the biggest size diameter we can have in here without it breaking through into our piece. And as you can see, this is about a 15. Let's see if that will work. So line that up with that. Well, mind you, if I just look at this shape, if I highlight this, it'll give me the width and height, and it's 15.3. So I want to make it a tad smaller than that. So 15 would be fine. So the diameter is 15. The thickness is how thick the piece is on average, and we know this is 0.75, so we're going to make it 1. Alright, so we're going to copy these two lines. So I'm going to right click and copy them, and here we know. So we know that this needs to be 15. The thickness we said is 1. Now the height of the pendant from the side is, we said already, it's going to be sort of around about 5. So excuse me, I'm just going to, let's make the height about 7 is enough. Border we don't need because we already opened it wider than it's meant to be. And the resolution we're going to leave at 50, and we're going to call this, before we do anything, we're going to call it the cable. cable side, I guess, of the PND, cable side of the pendant, and we're going to open this up. Updated, yes, we definitely want to update this file. Alright, so we've opened up, and for those who missed this step, let me just go back. We opened up this file right here. Okay, so we just created a rotary setting. It's the same as a ring finger, except it's not aligned with X. This is aligned with the Z. Alright, so we're going to right click once this is done, and we're going to paste the vectors we just copied, and I need to line them up with this circle here. So while they both are still selected, I'm going to hold down the shift key and select this inside line, and then using the center to model, which is this icon right here, it puts it exactly where it's meant to be. So you can see it'll fit the inside core nicely. Alright, so what we want to do now is, the first thing I want to do is look at the root structure of this again. Okay, so we're working on our default layer, which I'm going to rename now cable. Okay, and this is going to be cable as well, and we're going to obviously have a back which is going to be renamed cable as well. Alright, so the vector is called cable, the front relief is called cable, and the back relief is called cable. All three of them share the same name. Alright, so what we want to do is we need to decide how wide is our cable going to be. So we said it's going to be approximately 4.5. So I'm going to copy and paste that line. So I went to copy and paste that line in place. I'm holding down my Control and Alt key, and I'm going to drag a copy of this line upwards, and then I'm going to quickly drag one downwards. Okay, now I need to make sure that the spacing of these two lines are exactly 5. So I'm selecting them both, and I'm going to bring up the transform. So pressing key on the keyboard, T on the keyboard, or this icon here is the no, not this one. This icon here is the transform icon. It brings up the transform. The first thing I want to make sure is that these are not checked. So I'm going to uncheck the lock. Okay, and then I can put in the width now of 5. And then when I hit apply, it moves them and it keeps everything centered. So to make sure, I select them both again and press F9, and it puts them exactly where they're meant to be. Alright, so this is the size of the actual box. Okay, now if we look at the drawing so that you know what I'm doing here, let's zoom in here, but again, so you can see when I explain it here. So this is the absolute outside line from there up to there, but there's an inside area where the cable itself is going to go. As you can see, we've got this top edge and the bottom edge, but there's another area that has to be recessed for the cable to be wrapped around. So let's draw the recessed area now. So the recessed area is going to be inside this area here. Okay, and we're going to make that 3, and we're going to create and press F9. Alright, so the cable that runs around is going to be 3 millimeters in actual width. That's the thickness of the cable. Now if you want the cable and the pendant thicker, all you do is you make these lines more further apart. So let me just see what is the distance, because I'm winging it here. Let's see how much space we've got between here and here. So I can measure this quickly, measure between there and that line there. And I've got a millimeter. Well, that's let's see. We want it to be 0.75. So I can increase this box by at least a half a mil, and I'm still going to be okay. So let's go back, select this box, bring up the transform again, and let's make it 3.5 and apply. Alright, so this gives us 0.75 there and 0.75 there. Alright, so we are ready to basically do a sweep on the front relief layer. So this layer now is highlighted. Make sure the front relief is highlighted. You've selected the layer cable, and of course to do a sweep we need 2 rails. We now need a cross section, and if you've got a Z height, we're going to use so we're going to draw just a box, any size, doesn't really matter. We're going to right click, we're going to go to our node editing and remove that span between there, and now we are ready to do the sweep. Alright, so to do a ring sweep we need, so let me show you what we're going to be using down here. I'm going to scroll down here, rotary relief tools. So your rotary relief tools, you can see, are right at the bottom of the menu here, and I can't stand having to scroll down all the time to reach those tools, as you just see that I did. So what I did was I opened up the rotary axis menu at the top. Let me show you how I found that menu. I went inside here, put my mouse up here, I went to right click, and I went down to my rotary relief tools, and that brings up this menu. I then left click on the menu and I parked it in there. So now I don't have to scroll down and find that menu bar anymore. Alright, so with that we are now going to go, alright, so we are going to go line 1, hold down the shift key, line 2. This is the outside lines of our pendant. We're going to select the cross section, and then we're going to select the outside shape, and we're going to go to just the normal sweep icon, and we're going to press sweep. And what that will do is that will now, so I'm going to turn off, I've got the assembly in view. If you see the assembly is in view, I'm going to turn the assembly off so you can see what we've made. So we've got basically the outside of the pendant made, but if you look, the inside is still round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the inside shape to make it match the outside shape. So to do that we have to be on the back relief over here on the right hand side. If you look right here, you've got your back. Make sure the back is selected, make sure the layer cable is selected, and now working on the back relief I'm going to draw 2 more lines. So I'm selecting this line there, I'm going to hold down my Control and Alt key at the same time. So I'm holding down on the keyboard Control and Alt, holding them both down. I'm dragging this line up, and I'm dragging 1 more line down. So they're still in line with everything, but they are way outside the zero plane, as you can see. So on the back relief now, I'm going to select line 1, shift line 2. So I've selected line 1, holding down the shift key, I've selected line number 2. I'm going to select the cross section, and then I'm going to select the inside vector, and now we're going to do a sweep, the same sweep, but we've just done a sweep on the back relief, not the front relief. So now when we look at the 2D view, it is now a cutout. Alright, so what we can now do is we can now sink the center part down where we can put our cable in. So let's do a quick hard save. And now we are ready to cut the center of the box out. But remember that has to be done on the front layer. Okay, so we're not going to be working on the back anymore. We're going to the front layer. We're going to select the front. Then you're going to select the cable layer. Make sure it's grayed out like it is now. Okay, I'm going to turn on the preview layer, this icon right here in the middle of the screen. It allows me to see what's going on as well. I'm going to select this big box that we made. Make sure it is bigger than the actual surface area we're working on. You can see, make sure it's longer. Okay, and I'm going to bring up the shape editor and I'm going to go down 0.5 and I'm going to go and subtract it. Alright, so that is the outside. So now we can start to wrap the cable around this shape. Okay, so let's go, and now we're ready to start to draw the cable inside here. So the quickest way to put cable in is to start with a polyline. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a short line on the page. Okay, so this line happens to be, for those who are watching me, happens to be 4 millimeters long approximately. It doesn't have to be exact. You can see there it's 4 millimeters long. And I'm going to snap it onto the corner there. So there it is there. Turn this off so you can see it. I'm going to go to node editing and I'm going to turn this line into a bezier, and by doing that I press a B on the keyboard. So pressing B, or if you right click, it says convert span to a bezier. So a bezier is just a line with 2 handles. So I'm going to marquee those 2 end nodes. So I grab them both at the same time, and using the up arrow, I'm just going to go all the way up until I almost touch the line at the top. Okay, and now I can mirror this line using this icon right there. I'm going to mirror it. I'm going to go over to the right, making sure once again we've copy and joining are selected. So I'm going to go right and then right once more. Alright, so I've created this wavy line, and now you can decide for yourself how thick you want your cable to be. So let's say we want our cable to be, I don't know, let's say 0.95. Okay, just make up a number. And I've got the circle that is a 0.95, and all I want to do is basically I want to create another line here, copy this line so it's just right here. So once again I'm holding down the Control and Alt. So first of all the Control key will make a copy and the Alt will constrain it in this. Now if Alt for some reason doesn't work on your computer, let me show you. I'm going to copy and paste that line. Okay, so I've got a copy and paste on this line. I'm highlighting this line and then I'm using my right arrow. I'm just going to move that over so that these more or less line up there like that. Okay, so now all we have to do is we have to just save this area right there. Okay, so to do that we're going to go to the scissors tool, okay, which is this tool right there. Okay, we're going to select it, and now move this out the way. I'm going to just cut that line away, that line away, and that line away, and that line away. There we go. So I've got that just by itself, and now I'm going to select that and marquee that, and we can go and delete those vectors. Alright, so we need to close off this, so I'm going to select that line, shift, select this line, and the options I'm going to use is close by moving the ends, and this will guarantee me that there's no loop in our shape. Alright, and now that's done. So what we now have to do is we have to paste this along this line here. So let's select the shape, hold down the shift button, select this rail, and once again go to paste along a curve, and we don't know how many, but I'm going to use a distance, and I'm going to try 1 millimeter and see what happens with that. So make spacing even. So 1 was a bit tight, as you can see, so I'm just going to undo that, and once again select the shape, select the line, let's go to 1.2, and let's see, that is perfect, because they just if you want to try once more, we can do it. Let's see if we can get them. Let's go to 1.3, and now they're slightly outside, but that'll be good. That'll still be good. Alright, so we don't have, be careful, we don't have one here now. So we need to make a copy of this one. Okay, so holding down your control key makes a copy. Okay, I'm just going to move it into place. I'm going to use my arrow keys just to basically get it in line, and use my left arrow to just, okay, so we need one more to fill up that block, and then of course we need to do the same on the opposite end. So I'm making a copy of that one. Going to scroll over to the other side, scroll in this side, and place this one in line. Okay, so I've lined it up with that, and I've just got to move my right arrow, and that is close enough for government work. Alright, so select them all now, select that, select all of those, and the last one, group them all together, and bring up the shape editor, give it a nice rounded shape, and add it in. So nice round, we went to add, let's have a look at that. We can see the rope's been added in. Let's go and look at that. Okay, so the rope at the moment is kind of flat looking. Can you see? It doesn't, it's nice looking from here, but from the side view it's still kind of flat. So what we want to do is we're going to bump up the background and just give the background a little bit of a slight dome. So this vector is the background vector. I'm just going to give it a start height of 0. Make sure your start height is now 0. And let's go up 40 degrees, should be more than enough. If it's not, we let it on. If it is too much, we're going to minus it off. So with this value, I'm going to now select add, and we're going to see what happens here. There we go. So there is our cable sticking out nicely, like it's meant to do. Now if you think that's a bit much, you can obviously undo that move and you can make it less of a dome. I'll leave that up to you. It's just a personal thing. Right, so the only thing we need to do now is, if you go to the assembly, turn it on, now we're good to go. So we can add this cable part to the let me tell you what I'm thinking about here. You see this beveled edge? I'm scared when we add this back that this might interfere and we might see it through this shape here. So it might not. So I could just add it to the assembly and see it, but I'm going to show you this anyway. Whether we use it or not is not the point. I want to put a little bit of a beveled edge on here, because if I bevel this edge, then I know for sure that it won't show through our diamonds here. So let me quickly put on a little beveled edge to show you. So to put the beveled edge on, where do we have to go? We have to go to the back plate. We have to be on the back. So I'm going to highlight the back plate. Make sure we're working on this cable. And to put a beveled edge, I'm just going to draw a box right there. So I just freehand a box right there. So this is the actual edge. I'm going to move it up. Okay, and now it's kind of twice the thickness of our rail. So with that, say if this was 1, this box is 2 for argument's sake, to give you an idea. So if we know the distance is there is 1.75, so this box needs to be at least 1.5, as you can see, mine is slightly bigger, which is also okay. I'm going to, with that box we just drew selected, I'm going to bring up the shape editor, and I'm going to give it a little angle of 40 degrees, and I'm going to add it onto the back. So when we add it onto the back, you can see, so the bevel goes from here to the halfway point, but then it's sticking outside our pendant, so it doesn't really matter. And you can now see if I turn off the assembly and I go to the opposite side, I have now beveled that little edge, and I know it won't interfere at all with what we are doing. But that's just how you would bevel the back anyway. Alright, let's do a quick hard save. And we're going to add this to the assembly now. So this is the outside frame we've just made. It does not sit in the assembly yet. So to get it there, we have to use the Create Triangle Mesh tool. And let's go. So we're going to close it with the back relief because we made a back relief. So that's going to be the option. We're going to select Create. And we're going to rename it before we add it, because otherwise it's going to say cable side pendant, which is almost what we want to do. But let's just put cable by itself. So that's the cable, and add to project. Okay. Another quick hard save. And let's go and look at what we've made. So File, Close Model, turn the assembly on, and now what we have to do is we have to raise this plate up so it sticks through this area here. So we're going to select the top pendant, which has to move upwards with the nudge, and using the up arrow around component, around world center, I'm going to go up, let's go 0.5, just keep moving it up. And now what has happened, because the pendant was made in this model here, we have to align it with Artcam's world center. So just the top pendant needs to be rotated. Oops. We're going to rotate the top pendant. So select the top pendant. We're going to rotate it 90 degrees around world center, 90 degrees around world center in the Z. It doesn't matter which way you go, clockwise or anti-clockwise. Can you see they're not in line here? And when I press this, they will line up perfectly. There we go. So the beveled edge we made, so let's have a look at this. Alright, so after close inspection, you can see that something is sticking through here, which is part of this pendant. If I turn the cable off, you can see this edge is actually sticking through. So what I want to do is I want to trim. Let me go back and look at this a second, see if I've got it right here. Oh, the cable needs to come up a bit more. Sorry, let's move this pendant up 0.1. It's supposed to be sitting right on the top edge. There we go. Alright, so I've got a little bit of bleeding here. We've got a little bit of this. I can show you how to get rid of this little bit of an edge here if you want to. Let me show you that. That will smarten it up a bit as well. So if we get rid of this edge, we might be able to sink it down a bit also. Alright, so if you want to neaten it up, let me show you how to get rid of that. That's a step you don't have to do, but let me show you anyway. I'm just going to quickly go into the top pendant, reopen it up. And you know what, it's something you can do, but it's just going to complicate everything for you right now. Let's leave this alone for now. In another episode, I will show you how to do that. So that will be a slight sand with a bit of sandpaper. You'll take it off. Alright, so oops, we didn't add in our stones, so I have to go back there anyway. So let's go back, add in our gems, and we need to add on the bail. So the bail happens to be round as it is in our photograph. It's completely round. So because it's round, we can cheat. Haha. And I love, if I can cheat and make a bail, that will be just super duper. So let's have a look at that. So let's go to the assembly. And inside the assembly, you have got your component library. So if you go to this folder here, you should have a nice fat jump ring. So let's go back to your component library, and I'm looking for a 3mm jump ring. Alright, now I just realized a lot of you people might not have a 3mm jump ring, but by the end of this bootcamp you will have it, because I'll be giving you these folders. So we're going to select the jump ring, 3x3x1. We're going to import it. Alright, so depending on the thickness of the chain, this would be the side of your bail, for argument's sake. There's a bail there we could have just attached on, but let's stick with the round job. So the jump ring, we are going to, first of all, let's change the color back to default, so we don't have to do them all at the same time. So let's change it back to default, and then we're going to turn it around which axis. So we want to return it around the red, so it stands up. Remember, it's around the color. Imagine it this turning around the color. I want the left and right to turn. So we'll go to the red arrow, and we're going to turn it 90 degrees. That puts it up on its edge. And it's a bit faceted. I'm going to smooth it out at the same time. Didn't do much smoothing anyway. Alright, so we're going to move that straight up. So we want to move it along the red. Let's go 1mm at a time. And let's put it right through so it sticks up there. Okay, so this jump ring, I'm going to make a copy of it. So to make a copy of this, you can right click and say a copy, and then go to assembly and paste. And I'm going to move this jump ring to the side. So let's move it 1mm in blue. That would have been world center, correct? So it's actually green. Okay, and the center ring, this first one we made needs to be fatter. So let's just use the scale icon and fatten it up. So it is 1mm in Z. Let's make it 2, which is a 200% everywhere. So let's go back to 100 on here. I'll show you a trick. Let's go back to 100 in here. We just go to 200 on here and apply. Oh, that's a bit big. It's too big. That was a mistake. So let's go back. Let's make it 90%. Let's make it another 90% and see what we end up with. Mind you, 6 is not bad. Yeah, that's good. And the side one we're going to make a little bit bigger as well. So the side one at the moment is 3.96. Let's go up 120%. It'll scale everything evenly, and that looks good. So you're going to mirror this to the opposite side. So it's going to be around the green and red axis. So mirror around the green and red. And how do I know? Because just look at the red and green. So it's about this plane, the green and red plane. And oops, make sure. Oh, made another mistake again. So let's go and delete that one. So with that highlighted, it is around the blue and red plane. Sorry, it is around the blue and red plane, not this one. Remember, Artcam's World Center is the blue and red. So we're mirroring around the blue and red. Okay, and then these three have to be put inside one single folder. So now watch me. I'm going to drag and drop and drag and drop. So left click, drag and drop, let go with my mouse. Left click, drag and drop, let go with my mouse. And this I'm just going to rename Bale. Enter. So the whole bale needs to move up in red just a tad. So it sits nicely on. I'll leave you. You can decide where you want it positioned. If you want it to come down a bit. So it's, oops, not in red. It's in red. It has to come down. There we go. Okay, and last but not least now, maybe it needs to move up in blue a fraction, although that might not look so nice. To just sit a bit more centered, I guess. I'll leave that up to you. You can decide where you want it to go. Alright, so the only thing we have to do now is we're going to add our stones in, because we're going to have to go and render this. So let's add our stones. Our stones are quite quick. We're going to go back into the cable side pendant. We're going to double click into the top pendant folder. We want to open up the top pendant folder, this one here. So we're going to double click, and we're going to turn off everything except for our stones. So we want our diamonds to show by themselves. So put your mouse on the light bulb of diamonds and right click with your mouse. It turns everything else off, just leaves the diamonds on. We're going to select them all, and we are going to use this icon here at the bottom of the screen, and we're going to convert them from regular gems, from a regular vector into a gem vector. We are going to pick our stone. It's going to be a diamond, and get sizes from vectors, so it'll pick them all. We're going to say okay, do that, and we want to keep the originals just in case. So go to next. What it will do is it'll create the layers. It made a layer called gem vectors, so we're going to select the gem vector layer. We've turned all the others off. They're all red. I know they are gem vectors. I'm going to select them all, and then we're going to use this icon here, which is to set the gems into place. So what we're going to do is, I'll just show you what's going to happen here. We're going to set them now, and I'm going to make them a height of 5. Just stick them up in the air and go to next. So they are gem vectors. We're going to accept that, and we are going to do a hard save. And then we're going to go File, Close Model. Okay, so the gem vectors might be sitting the wrong way around, because we had to turn the model around, remember? And it looks like they need to be turned as well. But let's just put them into position and have a look. So I'm just going to go down, bring them into position. and see if it lines up, and I can see these are longer than the sides, so they have to be rotated 90 degrees around blue. There we go. Now everything will fit exactly. So let's raise them up. They're too deep down. One more click down, and there we go. Alright, so now if you want to close off the back so you can't see inside here, we can go and make a back plate that will fit inside here. So let's go and do that quickly. Best place to do that is to go into the top pendant again. Okay, and let's bring back our vectors to see where the outside layer was. So let's go back to that was the outside of the pendant right there. This is where that has to be built inside here. So I'm going to make a new layer here, which is going to be called back plate. And I'm going to isolate this by itself by putting my mouse on the light bulb, and I right click, it turned everything else off. And now we have to do some kind of a pattern on the back here. So I'll leave it up to you. You can decide whatever you want to do. To keep it simple, I'm just going to go and let's make a 12-sided star. Why not? Bring that. Press F9. No, it's not going to work. Let's do something a little bit more exciting. So let's think about this quickly. Something that won't take too long. So let's put one circle there. Okay, let's put one circle there, and we're going to offset that circle. Let's go 0.8, and it's going to be outwards once, twice, 3 times. I'm going to grab all of those and I'm going to copy them over the model. Okay, bring those up into place. Select these as well, and I'm going to group them. Group and F9, and then of course just bring up my reference line so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just making them past the halfway line like that, watching the thickness, get this line to be in the middle of that vector there. That's good right there. Alright, so turn the reference lines off. So I could get fancy as well and do one other thing. Let me just try something quickly here. 1 second. We could have see what that looks like. Put that in the middle of... No, it's too much. Let's keep it simple. Alright, so bring up the shape editor. Let's go up however thick you'd be. Let's say that I need to be more than, let's say, 0.75 or 0.85. I'm going to add, close. I'm going to mirror the relief, okay, which will be left over right. Excuse me, and select that shape and 0 rest. So 0 rest will just cut everything else out the way and just leave me that inside. It doesn't look good. Let's do this again. Let's ungroup these. Ungroup all. And I forgot these two should have been into each other. That's a better thing. So let's grab those and group those. So group those. F9 puts that in the middle. and once again just get the outside vector right there. Alright, that might look a bit nice. Alright, but you get the gist of it. I'll leave you to do your own pattern. Let's go up again, 0.85. Gonna add it up. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Ungroup, so we want to select those need to be grouped. What am I doing? Group vectors 0.8. Oh, I don't know what I did right here. Anyway, ungroup all. Just select those two, 0, and of course that and that. We're going to 0 those as well. Alright, so now we're going to mirror left over right. That looks better. Select that line and 0 rest with the shape editor. Alright, so we're going to add that to the back. So we're going to create a triangle mesh, and we're going to close with a flat plane. There it is. Add to project. No, we do not want to replace it. I should have renamed it. I should have renamed it back, but we'll rename it now. So file, close model. Yes, we might as well update it and save it. Alright, so let's look at our back. There it is. I'm going to call this, rename this back. And we're going to drop it straight down in blue. Let's go 0.5 at a time, straight down. Remember, it has to be turned again, so let's just rotate it once more. 90 degrees. And now, with the back selected, I'm going to set world center and then move it straight back, so it lines up with our piece a little bit more. Looks like it's sticking out a tad. Let's go 0.1. There we go. Alright, and that is... Oh, let's see how you add in the stone, the center stone. So for those who don't have a cabochon stone, you just got to create a dome of this vector and you can add it in. So we're going to go to assembly, change the color to whatever material you want it to be, say platinum. Our bale we're going to also change to platinum, and of course our two sides need to be changed to platinum as well. I was trying to avoid this by labeling them without having to go through this, but anyway, there we go. Close this off, turn it off, and now you can render this in KeyShot, which I will show you in the next training video. So hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something. Thank you.